Hey all, Hipper here. So today I'll take you through my pick of the best console local couch co-op games of 2023. And local co-op is not something we see a lot anymore, so let's start out with a recent one, which is Diablo 4. Diablo 4 has totally sorted the honestly very lacking local co-op mode that was available in Diablo 3. And in the new game here, it's very well implemented, one of the best I've seen. For example, here I show you can play characters together, it doesn't matter what level they are. Here I'm 34 and I'm playing with the level 5, right? So it means that you can just pick up characters from different accounts and just play them. There's no need to, for example, always play together, so you always level together. So it's a lot more free. And how you actually start the local couch co-op here is also very easy. You just press start on the second controller and just make sure you have a second account on your console and that it's linked to a Battle.net account, right? The big problem in Diablo 3 was that only one player could access their inventory at one time. And that's obviously very inconvenient when you're playing more than one player. But in Diablo 4, you can access your inventory at any time. And it makes it just so much more fluid and, just so much easier to fiddle around with your build while the other player does something else. And of course, combat is also much more interesting when you're two players, especially when you're local, you're sitting next to each other, right? So I highly recommend Diablo 4. It is definitely one of the best local co-op games available on console at the moment. So next up we have a golden oldie, and it is none other than Portal 2, because this is one of the absolute best local couch co-op games you can possibly find. And it's still available on Xbox as a backwards compatible game, so that's the only place you can pick it up at the moment anyway. So this game, of course you can play it solo, but you can also play it in local co-op, and like I said, it's a lot of fun, because in the local co-op you take on the role as two robots, like one skinny and one a little bit on the thicker side. And you work together and you solve these quite complicated puzzles, really. And it's just absolute fantastic gameplay, especially when you are playing together in the same room on the same couch. So this is also a game I highly recommend. If you have an Xbox, then definitely pick it up, right? Alright, number 3 on the list is a more recent entry, and it's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. And this is a split screen game, right? That you can play locally, 2 players together on the couch. And it's also really easy to set up. You just choose split screen in the menu, you add your characters, and off you go. And this game is made by Gearbox, so if you have played Borderlands before, you'll know exactly what to expect. The setting is different in this game here though, and some people might enjoy it, some people might actually, just want to stick with Borderlands, and I can totally understand that. But the gameplay is solid, like the progression is amazing, and the game is just very, very smooth. Because this is a Gearbox game, it includes the frankly quite fantastic possibility of changing your horizontal split screen into a vertical split screen. Because this is what I prefer when I play with my friends, and on a widescreen TV it just works really well. So Gearbox usually gives this option here, and it's included in this game here. And it just makes also stuff like inventory management much easier, because you have the whole high screen, so you don't have to fit it into like the bottom half of a widescreen TV. So I highly recommend this game. It's polished, it's almost perfect really, and it doesn't really have any rough edges. It's very enjoyable in local co-op, so I highly recommend it. Okay, next up we have a game that actually not many people know about. It's called the Ascent, and it's available on both Xbox and PlayStation. And this offers some of the best couch co-op available on both consoles. And setting it up is also easy as. All you gotta do is choose couch co-op and start a new game. Really, that's it. It's very similar to top-down twin-stick shooters of the past, except that the world that this game takes place in is so colorful and so alive that it's a whole other experience really. And of course you create your characters just as usual, and once you are satisfied with both characters, you start playing the game. This game has some of the best cyberpunk graphics out there that I've seen, and it just makes the whole feeling very surreal, really. And the game is also super solid. Like, there's very nice progression. You can upgrade your weapons and your characters and buy implants and stuff like that. And it's also a very long game. It's about 10 hours. So this game is highly recommended, not just for its graphics, but also because it's very solid and one of the best local co-op options out there. Alright, next up we're going back in time again, back to Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition. So this game is still available in the stores, both Xbox and PlayStation, and it's a roleplay game. It's not like Diablo, it's far more advanced, but it's also far more interesting to play and also a lot more difficult, really. It's a lot deeper, and although it may look simple here, it just looks very colorful, and you know, for such an advanced title with so many layers underneath, the inventory management is really simple. And luckily both characters can, you know, rummage through the inventory at the same time, which is so important in these local co-op games here, right? It's no problem at all in this game, and if that's not enough, if you don't want to play this game in, you know, just single screen, you can switch to split screen on the fly. And the game can even do like the Lego style, where if you're like close together, both characters, or all four characters, so you can be up to 4, then the screen will turn into one screen, and then if you move away from each other, like I'm going to just demonstrate here, then it will automatically split into 2. So if you just stick together, you'll always be on one screen. If you go do your own stuff, you'll be on split screens. So this works really well, and it just makes the game very fluid. And of course, the combat is unlike Diablo. This is a turn-based game, right? So it requires a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and that's also why it is far more difficult than Diablo, let's be honest here. But it's also a lot more rewarding. And if you have the time and the effort to get into this game and build your characters and upgrade them the way that you think is fun, this is a very rewarding title. And there's probably close to 100 hours of gameplay in this thing if you take your time, right? So it's definitely one of the strongest local co-op titles out there. The next game on the list is really the follow-up to the previous game, and it's called Divinity Original Sin 2. So yeah, not much of a surprise there. It works basically the same way as the original game. You can easily manage your inventory, both players at the same time. It's not a problem. You can force split screen, or you can turn split screen off, so you have the same screen that you are sharing both players, and it works like a charm. And just like the first game, this is also a really deep game with lots of exploration and lots of quests and hundreds of hours of gameplay. And it is frankly one of the biggest games I have ever played. The combat, just like in Divinity 1, it is turn-based, and it brings its own quirkiness to playing on consoles, where everything else is usually real-time, just like Diablo 4, right? But here you get to take turns. Enemies and your characters, they take turns, and you use your magic and your abilities to basically outsmart your opponents. And this game also has a multiplayer component over the internet, if you're into that stuff. It's not really as good as the local couch co-op play, which I'm showing here, and this is the video about that really, but it does have the option if that's your thing. So anyway, this is one of the biggest games I have ever played. 100-200 hours easily in this game here, and so many quests that I just can't even remember them all. And if you play this game 2 players, you're going to be absolutely absorbed into it, and you're not going to leave for, well, what was months. And once you do that, you just pick another character and you start over, right? So almost endless fun in this game here if you are 2 players, playing local couch co-op. Alright, the next title, we're going back in time again, because this is a very underrated series of games actually. But we're going to start with the first one, Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light. And this is an exceptionally well crafted local couch co-op game, and it's also very easy to get started. It's kind of old, the graphics are a little bit outdated by now, but if you can just ignore that, This game is fabulous.
This is my kind of magic. Just put it down and get out of the way.
At first glance, the game kind of looks like your run-of-the-mill top-down twin-stick shooter, but this is so much more than that. In this first installment of the game, you have two characters, Lara Croft and this weird Aztec guy here, and they both have different skills. And although there is obviously, action and shooting in the game, most of this couch co-op game here is about solving, puzzles and quests and riddles. You complete these quests by making use of the particular features of each character, and as you progress through the game you will get access to even more options, and as in the end some of these puzzles in the game are going to be really intricate and actually quite difficult to figure out. And it's a really rewarding game to play two players, because you're going to have to think while you're sitting there playing. It's not all about just shooting enemies all the time, right? So you have to come up with a plan, you have to coordinate your approach, and there's always, hidden surprises and obstacles. It's a really, really solid local couch co-op game, and one that's a lot more than just action, right? So if that's your thing, I highly recommend this game. Alright, next up is the follow-up to Guardian of Light, and it's called Temple of Osiris. And this is even better. It's almost impossible to imagine, but this game is even better. It expands on all the things that made Guardian great, and just, adds, for example, 4 characters instead of 2, many more levels, a lot more devious puzzles, and it's also much better looking, right? And it's also very easy to get started. You just choose new game and add a second controller and off you go. It's really that simple. So this game really is the pinnacle of local couch co-op gameplay, in my opinion. And it's really cheap. At the moment, I think it's $4 to buy on Xbox. It's not available on PlayStation at the moment, don't know why, but on Xbox you can still get it. So if you don't have this game yet, and local couch co-op is your thing, you should definitely buy it, because it is probably the best game out there. And if you're only going to pick up one game from this video here, I suggest this is the one, because this is just absolutely solid. It's magnificently made. So the puzzle aspect of this game has been expanded over the first game even more, which is quite an achievement on its own, and it just puts this game into its own dimension really when it comes to local couch co-op gameplay, because some of the puzzles are very, very clever, and it takes a while to figure them out, just like when you're playing like an actual Tomb Raider game, where sometimes the environment is your worst enemy, and shooting enemies is just kind of an afterthought. This game is just like that. Most of the difficulty in this game comes from figuring out how to proceed, really, and of course it's really satisfying when you do. So this is highly recommended. Alright, next up we have the classics. The Borderlands series, Borderlands 1, 2 or 3, they are all fantastic local couch co-op games. Of course you can also play at least some of them online, but I suggest you play these games locally on your couch with a friend, because they are probably also some of the best local couch co-op games out there. Now the more modern a console you can play them on, the better, because the frame rates can take a hit, right? But as a Gearbox game, again, you can change the split screen orientation. So if you prefer the vertical, like I do, it's easily done. And just like any other Borderlands game, like I said, 1, 2 or 3, it doesn't matter which one you pick, they are all fantastic. The inventory management, which is a huge part of this game, is easily done. You can do it independently of the other player, and the other player can go about their business while you're doing whatever you want to do, or you're shopping for guns or whatever it is that happens. So just like Diablo 4, there's not really any pauses in the gameplay. So any of the Borderlands games are great. Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2 in particular, probably the best of the 3, and then Borderlands 3. The pre-sequel I would avoid. I don't think it's very good. They all work the same way, you know, split screen and local couch co-op, and it's beautifully executed. With, you know, if you play it on a modern console, you're not gonna have any performance issues at all. These games also contain hundreds of hours of gameplay, so it's a really good investment, and of course these days they're fairly cheap as well. So I highly recommend it. Alright, the last game on the list is the LEGO Star Wars Skywalker Saga, and there's of course a lot of LEGO games out there, but I picked this one because it's the best of the bunch. And why is that? Well, it's because the developers have finally changed how they actually approach this game, and it's more of a, you know, over-the-shoulder look these days, instead of a top-down look as it used to be. And this suits the game so much better, and it makes it so much better to play and so much more fun to actually have a friend in the game with you. The blaster figures in particular have been improved a lot, as you can see here. Like, it's much easier to aim, it's much easier to take out the target that you are actually wanting to get rid of. And this is also a highly recommended game, and it also runs perfectly smooth. There's not much inventory management to speak of. It's a very simple game, and it's one you can play with kids. So that's the end of the video here, guys, and like I said, any game in this video is worth it. So get out there and play some local couch co-op, right? There's not many games doing it these days, so enjoy it when we get it. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you out there.